Welcome into the studios here at Five Clubs. And joining me in just a moment is somebody who is the most important, if not the most important, arguably the most significant designer in the world of golf currently. He designed the golf course in Rio for the 2016 men's and women's Olympic golf competition, not to mention being responsible for the restoration work at some of the most significant golf clubs in America, two of which are going to be on display this year in the men's game for major championships. Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the PGA, and the Country Club at Brookline in Brookline, Massachusetts for the U.S. Open, not to mention the work that he has done at Winged Foot, which hosted the U.S. Open in 2020, and a lot of other wonderful golf clubs that we know historically in terms of their importance to the game of golf. As well, his original work, Ohoopee Golf Club in Cobbtown, Georgia, was voted as the best new golf course in America a couple of years ago. And I'm speaking, of course, of Gil Hanse. This is somebody who has got as much sensibility and is thoughtful when it comes to the game of golf as anybody we have in the game. He also loves it. He doesn't just work in designing great golf holes. He genuinely loves the game. And I'm happy to announce that he is going to be contributing this year. He's going to have his own show. It's going to be his own perspective on the game of golf. Obviously, a lot of it may be associated with talking about the design work of people, not only all time, but currently as well. And I know that he has got a lot of great relationships in this game. So to get a little thought from him on what's to come for him and his show on Five Clubs this year, I'm very pleased to welcome him in right now. With that, we bring on Gil Hanse, who, of course, he's coming from a bulldozer in the Bay Area. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, Gary. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. This is a great way to just start by just giving everybody an idea. So many people who love the game of golf are interested in the projects that you are currently working on. What does 2022 look like for you?
It's pretty busy. I actually saw that Ron Reed, somebody sent me a tweet he put out at the end of the year saying that is Gil Hanse busier than Santa Claus? So answer is definitively no. We're only working on one continent. We're very fortunate. We've got a lot of work here in the U.S., but it's a busy year. We've got three really big projects. Lake Merced Golf Club, which I'm at right now, which is a restoration project, and then two new golf courses, one in Palm Springs area and then one in Nashville. So those are going to occupy a lot of our time. And then as we wrap up here at Lake Merced, we'll get started at the Country Club in Cleveland. And we've got a big tournament at the other Country Club in Brookline that'll be coming up, and we'll have some work there to clean up after the U.S. Open. So busy year.
You know, you mentioned Brookline, and you've dealt with the emotional experience of doing a restoration and then the best players in the men's game coming and playing there as you did at Winged Foot. For people who are going to see the Country Club, for the first time in a long time, they may have watched the U.S. Amateur that Matt Fitzpatrick won some years ago. But for a lot of people, it might have been the Ryder Cup in '99. What do you think people are going to take away in terms of the optics on television? And then, of course, if you were lucky enough to be on property, what are they going to see?
It's the rustic beauty. It has just the patina, obviously, of age and tradition that exists there is amazing. When Ben Crenshaw talks about golf course architecture, he talks about, I think, playing in the U.S. Junior at the Country Club, and just his eyes were completely opened up as to different types of golf. He'd never seen a golf course like that before. And I think from the perspective of the beauty of the rolling terrain, the topography, the vegetation, the rock outcroppings, again, with all the tradition that comes along with the Country Club, it's a presentation unlike any other. I guess Shinnecock would probably be the closest because there'll be a lot of fescue and a lot of native grasses, but it's still completely different with the tree line nature. So it should present beautifully. We're just going to hope that Mother Nature gives us a good week of weather, so we don't have to deal with a lot of rain But if we get that good week of weather, I think it's not only it's going to present spectacularly, it's going to play really well.
The major in the men's game that precedes that is also near and dear to your heart, because I was lucky enough to be with you the day that you reopened Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're going to host the PGA. Couple things. Why will it work well in the month of May agronomically? And then also, what are people going to see when they see that golf course for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I think agronomically we should be in good shape. I mean, we're going to hope for an early spring because the southern the fairways and primarily the rough. I mean, the fairways will be fine. The greens are bent grass, so they should be great. But it's really the rough is trying to get it to wake up in time, come out of dormancy, and then really go into the spring in a good way. So I think that's the wild card there is the rough. As far as presentation of the golf course, I think ultimately it's all about. Well, it's about two things. I mean, one that really doesn't impact players all that much. The routing is as good a routing as I've ever seen. I mean, Barry Maxwell there just did an incredible job of sitting that golf course in that property. But then it comes down to the greens. Some of the most devilish small greens where, the edge conditions there, if you get anywhere near the edges of those greens, it's just rolling off either into a bunker or into a collection area. So I think players who are going to have to hit about as precise a shot as they've had to hit in a long period of time. Number one, the targets are small, but they're even smaller because you're having to play to the center. You get near the edges and it'll be tough.
A couple things before I let you go. I want to ask you about the golf ball, because if a decision gets made this year by the R&A and the USGA, and what I mean by that is if they roll something out and then they have a comments period, are you talking to people who may want to commission you to do a golf course that they're talking about yardage closing in on 8,000 yards? Have you had a conversation like that? And what effect does the golf ball and the decision on it have on you and your business?
We haven't had not only have we had a conversation, we built a golf course. The PGA course in Frisco. If you go back of tees to back of green hole locations, we're right around 8,000 yards.
Okay.
So it's in order to build something to accommodate a major championship in this day and age, we've had to resort to that. And so I think we have a golf course there, and being in Texas is ultimately going to come down to the wind and how they set up the golf course. I think that's the one thing that gets lost in a lot of the conversation is we provide the architecture, but ultimately it's the setup guys who dictate how that architecture is presented and how it's played. So what we talk more about is the ability for a Kerry Haig or a John Bodenhammer to use the yardages there. They don't have to use it, but they want to have the flexibility and the ability, because as I mentioned earlier, talking about the country club, we're hopeful to get good weather, but if we don't, they need to have a plan B. And so it's a lot of times that plan B resorts to, hey, do we have the ability to go back if we need to? Not that we are ever going to use it, but we want to have that flexibility.
Before I let you go, I mentioned before I brought you on that you're going to lend a little bit of your time, which is very valuable, to giving your perspective on the game of golf here at Five Clubs. I mean, I love talking golf with you, but what do you like to talk about other than design? I mean, what are the things in the game of golf that you love talking about?
Well, we love talking about golf courses, but we love talking about fun and playing the game and different, the maintenance of the golf courses. But we also love talking about things like music and sports. And, I'm hopeful that through the whole of this, I'll get to talk enough about golf courses, but I'd like to bring on some guests from different, people who absolutely love the game of golf, but maybe don't work in the game of golf, and what do they love about it, and make it a little bit more golf course centric. And, what gets them upset when they see something? Do they blame the architect? Do they blame the superintendent? Do they blame themselves? How do they ultimately, look at a golf course and think about how they play it and through that lens? So I'm excited to get some people on to talk about those things. But I think, one of the things that Jim Wagner and I focus on most with our guys is fun. And I want to have some fun with this, want to make it light. We'll use some, we'll have people send in some questions. I'm excited about just having a little bit of a platform to kind of, I'm a big fan of the Grateful Dead, and
Yep.
our workout here is we improvise a lot. So I think there'll be a lot of improvisational skills, hopefully, on display as we go through this. But the goal is to do something a little bit different. I've been talking to our guys about this, and one of the things they talk about is the perspective of how you build a golf course, a lot of the different things that go into that people might not necessarily ever think about. Some of the decision making and what is predicated not solely on golf. The other part of it too is because of my schedule, I'll be coming to you every month from a different place. So we'll talk about what we're doing there and where we're at, if we've discovered the best pizza joint in town and things of that nature. So looking forward to it. It'll hopefully be a lot of variety, which we prize in our designs and hopefully in this podcast.
I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it much more than Jay Billis's show. But that's not an upset at all.
Jay's a good friend of both of ours, and I'm not sure. Hopefully, I'm sure he'll take that zing pretty well.
Yeah, I know that he will. Listen, get back to work. Happy New Year. Best to Tracy, and we're looking forward to not only all your work, but obviously, like I just said, your perspective on golf and everything you love about the game. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. All the best. Cheers.
Well, as you just heard, Gil is going to be a part of 5 Clubs. And, he has had the opportunity through the years to do a lot of different stuff. He's done network television for the U.S. Open on Fox. And if you've seen him on the Fox coverage, he could spend his life talking about the game of golf. He's that good in terms of expressing himself, but he really does love having fun. And I've thought and talked with him about golf courses and had a conversation with him late into the night, trying to pare down how many truly great golf courses there are in America. And you'd be surprised at the number. At some point this year, he may even share that with you. But we know one thing, whatever it is that he brings to 5 Clubs on a monthly basis will be very interesting to use. So thanks to him, and stay tuned to more details on his show right here on 5 Clubs.